Hi, I'm Amanda Call, and today I'd like to talk to you about how I like to organize my comic layouts. Before we get going too far, let me provide a quick definition. When I'm talking about layouts, what I'm talking about is something that looks like this. It's a plan for what your comic page is going to look like, where you're going to have the panel borders and what's going to be inside of each one. Typically, a comic artist is going to sketch one of these out before they actually start in on the final comic page so that they know what they're doing. So, a little bit of backstory here as to how I developed the method that I use today. So especially when I was in college, I really only did short comic projects, usually things that were anywhere from like 2 to 5 pages, and so my layouts were usually just little scribbles on scrap pieces of paper, shoved into sketchbooks, or sometimes they were loose pieces of paper that I actually had to turn in for a grade. There wasn't really any kind of method to it, it was just wherever I could jot down my idea for the page, that's where it ended up. When I started making Age of Night, my webcomic that's been running for 13 years now, I realized that I needed something that was a little bit more robust. I needed a system that was going to stay nice and organized and be easy to keep up with. So I developed the system that I am still using to this day, some 24 plus chapters and 600 pages of comics later, and it is still working great, so I'm going to tell you all about it. Just a quick disclaimer of what this video is actually going to be about is just the organization. I am not going to talk about the actual
writing of the
comic because, yeah, okay. Yes. No. Yeah, the less we talk about that, the better. I'm also not really going to talk about how I figure out layouts. That's a very big subject. It requires much braining. It's very difficult, it's very complex, and that's basically what I spent 4 years getting a degree in, and what I have spent the rest of my life up to this point trying to actually learn how to do well. And I will continue to spend the rest of my life trying to actually be good at it, so no, I'm not covering that in like a 10-minute YouTube video. If you catch any of my live streams, a lot of times I do talk about the reasoning of how I break down specific pages, and if there's a particular part of figuring out comic layouts you want me to make a video on, just leave a comment or something and I'll try to go over it. But that's not what we're doing here today. We're talking about just the organizational system today. If you do want to learn more on your own about how to break down a comic script into layouts effectively, some of the best resources that I can recommend to you would be Will Eisner's Comics and Sequential Art and Scott McCloud's Making Comics. I'll leave links to those books down in the thing. They're both really excellent. I like them a lot. Okay, so what is in this system? Well, it looks kind of like this. Yeah, this is it. This is it right here. So it's not really super complicated or anything. I will give you a little bit of a tour of what it looks like in the overhead shot, but the first things that you're going to want to do is obviously you have to write the comic, best of luck there, and then you're going to have to print it out, and you're also going to have to print out a template for your thumbnails. I have a thumbnail template that I have been using for years, and I will include a link to that file if you would like to download that for your own use. Once you have everything printed out, you're also going to need to hole punch everything so that it will actually fit in one of these 3-ring binders. If you get the little divider thingies, which are also a part of the system, they don't always come with the binders, so you might need to get these separately, but you can use them as like a template for your hole punching if you don't already have a 3-hole punch. I had one and I broke it, so I'm back to this for now. Is what you will need to get started, so let us go and check out what this system looks like on the overhead shot.
So you'll notice right away that I have several chapters in here, separated by tab sheets. I can usually fit 4 chapters in a 2-inch binder easily, while leaving some room in the back for plain lined paper where I write down story notes and chapter outlines when ideas hit me. These binders go everywhere with me, so the pockets also end up full of random stuff like RPG character sheets and business cards from conventions back when those were a thing. As we turn to an individual chapter, you can see that I keep all the script pages on the left and all the thumbnail templates on the right. This is because I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to draw on the right-hand side and not have to worry about bumping into those big awkward rings. If you're left-handed, I would recommend swapping the sides. On the script side, I break down the individual pages. My scripting style is not standard by any means, and I prefer to leave figuring out each page and panel to this stage of the process rather than trying to work it into the script from the beginning. I label the page number on the script and the corresponding thumbnail where I plan out the panels. I also label each piece of dialogue with a different letter, so as not to get confused with the page numbers, that corresponds to the letters in the word balloons in the thumbnails. Yes, I absolutely plan out my word balloons at this stage. Not only do I need to be sure I leave space for them in the artwork, they're also vital to the flow of the reader's eye around a page. Sometimes I will also include little notes in the script or in the thumbnails for places where my sketches may not be super clear. These are only for my own reference, so as long as I can understand what the scribbles mean, then I don't need them to be museum quality work. You can also see that the thumbnail template I use has room for way more pages than are typically on a single page of script. This gives me room to play around with different layouts and compare which ones I like more, or to simply cross out an entire page and start over if it's just not working. The other nice thing about this system is that once I'm ready to move on to actually drawing the page, I can take the thumbnails and script out of the binder and onto my drafting table. That way I can reference them while I work without having a big old binder taking up half my desk. You can see here the comparison between the thumbnails and the finished comic page that they planned. Also, the thumbnail template is sized and properly proportioned to make translating layouts very easy. Each thumbnail template is 2 by 3 inches, and the live area of a standard American comic page is 10 by 15 inches. So, each inch on the template equals 5 inches on the finished page. So for example, if my big establishing a shot panel across the top here is 1 inch tall on the thumbnail, then I know to make it 5 inches tall on my comic page. This makes the math for figuring out where the panel borders from your sketches are supposed to go really simple and reliable.
So that is the system. I hope that you found that informative, and really, you don't have to consider this as some kind of end-all be-all. Really, whatever way that you organize your work that works for you is good. Find what system makes getting the ideas out of your head and onto paper as easy as possible and keeps you organized in creating. That is what is good. But if any of this helped to inspire you or maybe give you some ideas of a way that you might adapt your own workflow, then awesome. I'm so glad. If you really enjoyed this or it helped to inspire you, then be sure to give it a like. I always appreciate when people subscribe to this channel as well and share it with their friends because it helps me to grow and share my information with more people. So thank you everyone, and I'll see you next time. Now you're stuck. Now you're stuck to my chair. Now you're stuck to my chair. This is all your fault. You're stuck. No, now you're stuck to me. Stop it. You're the worst assistant ever. Do you know that?